Welcome to Smacky's Garage. Today we're going to be working on the Factory 5 GTM again. Our goal is going to be to get the coolant system completely hooked up so that we're ready to start in a week or two. Now the coolant system on this car consists of a few different parts from a Corvette. So you have the radiator up front, you have the coolant overflow tank there, but we also have to make some modifications to it because with the way this currently sits, it's going to be really hard to get all the air out of the coolant system. Let me show you why. At the front of the car, you have the radiator. This is from the Corvette, and coolant fans are from it as well. But what you're going to notice is the radiator is actually at an angle. So if we look at that radiator angle compared to the height of the engine, the top of the engine is actually higher than the radiator. What we're going to end up doing is putting the coolant tank right here. But even with the coolant tank right here, the highest part is still going to be the engine in the back. So that's going to be a problem for this setup. So we're going to have to make some modifications. You can see some of the coolant lines are already run to the vintage air system, which is located in the inside of the car. But we're going to have to take it, we're going to have to run coolant lines from all the way from the front to the back and then connect them. To fix the issue of having the engine be the highest part of the coolant system, we actually have this tank right here from Canton. So this is going to have to be installed somewhere up in this location above the engine so that we can actually burp all the air out of the system. So let's go ahead and we're going to jack this thing up to get started. Now one of the things to notice while jacking this up, it's so low that I can't fit a jack in a piece of wood under the back. So I actually have to run it up on 2x6s to jack it up to get in the air. Now the reason why I'm getting it in the air is because I want to get some better access to the bottom of the engine so I can make sure that everything on the bottom of the engine is hooked up for sensors. So let's go ahead and let's jack this up. Now with this, there's literally nowhere good to jack it up in the front because there really isn't much of a frame structure for the car. As you can see, I guess I can use those rails where the lower control arms are connecting, but it's really not much there. So I can see there is a cross structure underneath, but still not a great place. Oh well. All right, you don't need to know how I got the rest of it in the air or how sketchy it was. But all you need to know is it's in the air now. I ended up mocking up the back rear window so I can see where it's going to get mounted in there. So this is going to end up going somewhere in there. Now, I actually need a T underneath here that connects to a 3/4 tube, which is going to go one side to the water pump, one side to the heating system up front. And then this NPT fitting here is going to go all the way to the front of the car, to the radiator. So I actually need to go out and get those. Off to Home Depot we go. So for this coolant tank, I'm going to have an elbow here, and I'm going to have a T here at the bottom. One of the things that I found out is Home Depot doesn't actually have the right fittings that I need. This will allow me to get everything in and get everything lined up, get the tubes run, but these aren't the final fittings that I'm going to use on it. You'll probably see those updated later in this video. For the bottom, I need a half NPT down here, which needs to go to 3/4 hose. So I need to find a half NPT to 3/4 hose. And this is going to be a 3/8 NPT to 1/4 barb or 5/16 barb. I got to measure that. But looks like I have enough to do some test fitting to get everything in place and to run all the lines. Now, one of the things I'm going to do to mount this temporarily is I'm actually going to use some zip ties with some washers on it. So I'm going to use the zip tie, the washer, and I'm going to strap it around here, and then I'm going to hold it up against the pole on the car or the frame just to get everything where I want it before I make any brackets to hold it in. So the goal is really to make sure that all the lines are in the right place and everything is secure, because with something like this, they don't really tell you exactly where it needs to go. There aren't any pre-drilled holes, so I want to make sure everything fits correctly before I start making any modifications. So this will hold it on one side, the other side is going to have the same thing, and then this will hold it onto the frame. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to place this where I want to have it. And I think it's going to end up being right in this area. So this area of the car is going to end up being really busy because you're also going to have your fuel pressure regulator over here. So let's see what we can do. Now you can see not everything's bolted down yet. I don't have the right fittings on here. They're coming today. But I need to find some way to get this to fit with the fuel pressure regulator as well as the return line from the fuel system here. So it's going to be very tight. That's the main reason why I'm not screwing anything down. But I'm going to need to make a bracket that's going to hold this in place up against this bar of the chassis. So for right now, this will work so we can run the lines. And then we're going to have to figure out how to permanently mount this after I figure out where the fuel pressure regulator is going to go later this week. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start running the coolant lines for the car coming from front to back, as well as attaching the coolant tanks. So here we go. All right, so we have the right fittings in. We have the elbow up there, we have the fittings down there. Everything looks a lot cleaner. Now we just need to make some sort of bracket to mount this in place and tighten everything up so that it's pointing in the right direction. Thinking this one's gonna be more biased towards the front, this one's gonna be just tightened in more, and I should be able to make something that'll hold it up against here. So that's the next step. All right, now that I have this all pulled together, I can take this, I'm gonna cut it off. I'm gonna put it into the car. Now I get to decide exactly where this is gonna go, and I'm gonna use this bracket to mount it. All right, now I know where I'm gonna mount this and how I'm gonna mount it. So I ended up drilling these both to 3/8 size. They actually need to be a size W drill bit, which I don't have, which I have to pick up. So I'm gonna take that, we're gonna put 2 riv nuts in here, and we're gonna bolt this down. After we bolt this down, it's gonna go to the back bracket that we put on here. So this back bracket, see it's spaced out so I can actually put a screw head behind it to tighten it down. So this is what's going to be the plate that I'm actually going to use to hold it in place against this in the right position. That's going to allow me to put it up pretty high, and then I'm going to end up drilling a hole in the bottom down there to allow the tube to go through. So that's what's going to work best. It's in the right location now, not making any compromises. So now I just need to get the right drill bit. Okay, so I have it in its final position. You can see I'm level. The overall, it's in a good place. I have to drill a hole down there for a 1-inch tube or hose to pass through. This hose will just wrap around. And then I have a bracket back here, which is held in with riv nuts. So you can see, because there's a space here now, I can actually get a bolt through here and tightened on this side. So I can just screw it down to this bracket. All right, now with this design, I should be able to just take this, put it on and off without having to get to anything else. So now that I have that bracket made, all I really need to do is use 2 nuts to hold it in place. So that'll hold it there. This one holds it over here. So I should still have access to it when the body is on the car, if I need to get it out. Now I don't have the right size bit to drill through this right now, so I'm going to leave that as it is. But you can see everything is now installed and in place, not interfering with anything. It's up. It's pretty sturdy. It is definitely sturdy mounted, so it's not going anywhere. I'm happy with the way that turned out and the placement of that. Okay, so we have the tank installed. Now it's in place. I was able to connect all the tubing except for that one there. I needed more 5/8 heater hose, and I'm going to change that fitting there to a 5/8 because it's going all the way back to the front of the vehicle to the vintage air. So all the hoses are run except for that one. I'm going to end up having to put a grommet there and drill that out a little bit more, but that should be all set. Now all the hoses are fixed over here. I think these, I'll probably end up changing these out later, but these hoses are both installed. And we should be all set for the cooling system as soon as I get that last line run from there to the front. All right, one step closer to getting the car running. Thanks for tuning in to Smacky's Garage this week. Able to get a lot of the cooling system done. I'm going to wrap it up. And the next week, we're going to be doing the dash and the fuel system. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you can follow the build of the car. I'll see you next time on Smacky's Garage.